In today's episode, not really an episode, but today's notes, we're going to go from first Battle of Bull Run to the second Battle of Bull Run. So the first Battle of Bull Run is going to occur in July 1861. It is also known as the Battle of Manassas, so don't get the two confused. Location: Bull Run Creek in Manassas Junction, Virginia. So you can see that it's named after either the physical location or the town name. Union troops were sent running back to D.C. by Stonewall Jackson Confederate troops. And going into this battle, many people truly believed that this war would be short. In one battle, it would all be over. But with the Confederate victory, this really shows us that this war would not be a short war. So it ended that notion that the North would just rout the South and this would all be done. But first of all, before we start getting into all these major battles, is we want to look at casualty versus fatality. So battle statistics often list casualties. It is important to note that a casualty is not the same as a fatality. All right, a fatality is someone who was killed during the course of battle. A casualty is someone who was killed, wounded, missing, or captured during the battle. So there are fatalities within the casualties. Throughout the war, soldiers could be listed as a casualty multiple times because they could either be wounded, missing, and come back, or captured or come back. So you can actually be a casualty multiple times. At the first Battle of Bull Run, there was approximately 4,600 casualties, and this number includes both Union and Confederate soldiers who were killed, wounded, or missing during the battle ended. Now, let's look at the plan for the North. The Union war strategy was called the Anaconda Plan. It consisted of three parts: use the Navy to blockade the South and cut off the supplies reaching the South, divide the Confederacy into two by taking the Mississippi River, and raise and train an army of 500,000 strong to take the capital of Richmond. So there are three parts: blockade the South, capture the Mississippi River to cut it in half, and raise and train a 500,000 army to take Richmond. And here is a political cartoon of the Scots Great Snake. Again, General Woodfield Scott was the one that created this plan. And you can see that the idea of the Anaconda Plan is to basically encircle it and cut it off its breathing. Now, blockade running. The Union blockade extended over 3,500 miles along the Atlantic coast and the Gulf of Mexico. The Confederacy used ships, mostly made in Britain, and called blockade runners to break through the blockade, or basically rush through the breaks in this. These ships were built for speed, and they tried to cross through the blockade undetected at night. And throughout the war, the blockade runners had about an 80% success rate, which is pretty good. The Union captured about 1,100 blockade runners and destroyed about 355 throughout this time. And there is a picture of the Ella and Annie, Robert E. Lee. Now, with this, we have many different foreign affairs and issues that we're going to see. The U.S. Navy intercepted the British RMS Trent and removed two Confederate diplomats from the ship, John Slidell and James Mason, who were on their way to Britain and France to champion the Confederate cause. Again, they were wanting to talk about the Confederacy to these foreign countries and to show, hey, we are for real. The incident is going to cause tension between the Union and Britain. The Union bowed to the pressure and released the diplomats. Another foreign affair was the CSS Alabama. From 1862 to 1864, Confederate commercial raiders, like the CSS Alabama, attacked Union merchant ships around the world in an attempt to draw Union ships away from the blockade. In 1864, however, the CSS Alabama was sunk off the coast of France. Cotton diplomacy is another foreign affair, this one dealing with the Confederacy. The Confederacy hoped the European countries would intervene on their behalf, but Great Britain and other European countries found a new source for cotton, and they stayed out of the war. As if this was not enough, as one war was not enough, the conflict between Native Americans and the United States did not just end, because there was a war going on between the Union and the Confederacy. Some Native Americans are going to choose sides. Cherokee Nation sided with the Confederates. The Union kept a military presence in the Western Territories and dispatched troops when conflicts arose. U.S. Dakota War of 1862 in the Minnesota region, Kit Carson was going to lead troops against Navajo and Apache and occasional Confederate troops in what became New Mexico. So both sides of the war are actually going to be in conflict with Native Americans. Another one was the Sand Creek Massacre. The Union troops attacked and destroyed a Cheyenne village in 1864. Let's go back to the regular war, or the normal regular war between the North and the South. The Peninsula Campaign was a Union plan to invade Virginia. It was the first large scale offensive launched by the North. General George McClellan was cautious in engaging the Confederate troops, and as a result, his forces were stopped by General Robert E. Lee. Again, Abraham Lincoln is not a fan of George McClellan. The North is going to lose. McClellan retreated back to Maryland and was replaced by John Pope. Now, in the western part of this war, Fort Henry and Fort Donelson were very important forts to take and control the river valleys of Kentucky and Tennessee. The Union forces led by Ulysses S. Grant gained control of Fort Henry on the Tennessee River, followed by Fort Donelson on the Cumberland River. These victories ensured Kentucky would remain in the Union and open up the state of Tennessee to Union attacks. Now, one of the most important events in naval history is going to take place during the Civil War. The Monitor versus Merrimack was going to be a very historical battle. This is also known as the Battle of Hampton Roads. The location was near Hampton Roads, Virginia, but it's done in at sea. The naval battle between two ironclad ships, and again, this is the first time in history. The Merrimack was the southern ship, the Monitor was the northern ship. It ended in a draw. Significance, however, is it's going to revolutionize future naval warfare. Wooden ships are going to become outdated very quickly after this war. Now let's take a look at some of the medicines and the way people were treated in hospitals at this time. Approximately 620,000 soldiers died during the Civil War. Most soldiers did not die from battle wounds. Instead, they died from the infections and diseases they got from being wounded during battle. The high infection disease rates were because people did not understand what caused infections and what led to the spread of this disease. The common sanitary practices that were used, like washing hands, cleaning wounds, and sterilizing surgery equipment, they weren't used during this time. Chloroform, ether, and whiskey were used as anesthetics or painkillers, but many surgeries were performed without anesthesia. Think about that, people. Here is a picture of a field hospital. This is a doctor preparing to amputate a leg after the Battle of Gettysburg. Yeah. Let's move on to some more battles. The Battle of Shiloh is going to occur on April 1862 and is also known as the Battle of Pittsburgh Landing. Location was Tennessee, and the Confederate Army under Albert Johnson surprise attack on Grant's army. The Union's going to win the battle at a very heavy cost, though, with 23,000 total casualties. Now, one of the most important battles that takes place that nobody really talks about is David Farragut is going to capture New Orleans. David Farragut, as the Union led the Union Navy to victory and captured New Orleans with his boats, and he is able to basically take the mouth of the Mississippi and have it controlled by the Union. And this is very important in disrupting trade to the South. Now, the last battle we'll look at today is the Second Battle of Bull Run. The location again, Bull Run Creek at Manassas. General Lee took advantage of the change in Union generals to strike very quickly. This is another Confederate victory, and the Union Army is going to withdraw from Washington, D.C. So, as we can see at the very beginning of this war, there is not a ton of victories for the North, a lot of disappointments. However, in the West, the North is succeeding. In the East, the South is succeeding. All right, next lesson, we will look at Antietam and the Emancipation Proclamation. Thank you guys for listening. Stay classy, Berlin.